This experience happened when I was in my upper 40s, and it was caused by an allergy that I didn't know that I had. It had come on this season for some reason. And my husband and I owned and lived on a ranch out in the country, in close enough proximity we could commute to work. And we'd lived there for a number of years. So when I got the allergy, I thought it would go away as the seasons changed, but it did not. Every day, especially at night, I would go into the house and I would be so congested. I was having a hard time breathing. And I thought it was caused by the cats that we had at the ranch, or the hay, or the mowing, et cetera. I didn't know what was causing it. And I thought the seasons would be just like everybody else with seasonal allergies, that it would go away as the season changed. But like I said, it didn't. So when I went inside at night, I took decongestants to clear up my sinuses. However, one night the congestion was extremely bad. It was worse than usual. So as I got ready for bed, I took another decongestant and this night I propped 3 pillows on top of each other so that my body would be at a 45-degree angle, because I slept on my back with my tummies over my hands over my tummies. And so it was ultra hard to breathe. I couldn't sleep very well on my side, but with the 45-degree angle, I felt I could breathe better. But during the night, after we fell asleep, my chest started to hurt. And I didn't have the energy to sit up and gasp for air. So I reached for my husband and to get help. And I yelled for him because I couldn't feel him. Suddenly, I felt like I was out of my body. I knew I was out of my body, and I felt like I had taken the biggest, freshest breath of air that I ever had, and I literally felt free. Immediately, when I was out of my body, I was connected with the Creator's universal consciousness, and I knew everything was as it was supposed to be. I wasn't fearful at all when I left my body. Then, while at the ceiling height, I was looked down on my body, and that of my husband that was lying beside me. He had his back toward my left side. And I noticed that my physical arms were still over my tummy, clasped like I usually, when I was still on my back. And I noticed that I was floating at ceiling height in an atmosphere of black, velvety darkness of peace, unconditional love, and tranquility. It felt like pure harmony and bliss with everything. It was unusual to see my body from this perspective. And so I was curious. And so I zoomed in and down to different parts of my body to look at it. I was not a ghostly form when I zoomed down. I was energetic, but I had gotten so small that I had, when I was floating beside my face, I could see the pores on the side of my nose because I was, like they were large, because I had gotten so small. And then I was back at the roof line again. And but I wasn't actually at the ceiling height. I now was at the roof line because the roof line had melted away. And I noticed that the atmosphere that I was floating in was the perfect temperature. I wasn't chilled and I wasn't warm. It was perfection. And I felt like a spa day, I guess you could say. Then I noticed a silver cord float by from left to right in front of me. And it was moving slowly in an atmosphere of no gravity. And I also felt my spirit arms because they were floating out to my sides, and they were elongated because they were no longer encapsulated in my body. And while I floated, I rotated again so that I could look down again. And when I changed positions, I noticed a ball of light approaching from the right of where my body would be laying in bed. It would be from the right of the body. But I was more interested in what was going on down at my body, because what I saw was a shimmering blue essence, the color of the sky on a beautiful summer day, lifting out of my feet. Then it lifted out of my shins, then up out of my thighs. I was watching the remainder of my spirit body lifting out of the lower half of my body. When the energy totally escaped the body, it drew up toward me, because I was the spirit consciousness that had already left the upper part of the body. And now it was coming up, drifting up toward me to make one form. So I had stretched to escape the physical body, probably because it was a near-death experience and not my actual time to go. So it was deciding whether or not it wanted to come out. So the remainder of my spirit body, then I've changed into one form again. I could feel myself morphing. And when I saw my spirit body, I knew that this was my own share of God's Spirit, the Holy Spirit, who is inside each and every one of us. And when the energy totally drew, I morphed, like I said, but this time I changed from the blue form into a shining white orb of light, or like a bubble of light, similar to the light that was coming toward the room off to the right. While I know I felt I transformed into an orb shape, because my vision went through a fishbowl effect for a moment until the transformation was complete. Then I saw flawlessly, and I found myself resting in a wand made of love, similar to a wand that a child would blow bubbles from. Only this wand wasn't plastic. It was a cushy, comfortable, loving form, and I was sitting in it. I know that sounds odd, but everything in the heavenly realm is made of love. Suddenly, the first ball of light that was coming toward the room, because I noticed there was another light coming off to the left of me, and it was coming in a slight S-shaped curve toward the room, but it was a small pin of light at that moment. But the one that was I first saw coming off from the right zoomed in front of me, and it grew into a spiritual being. And the spiritual being, it was infused with light, and it had light rays coming out of its heart center. And I could see its hair. It was wearing a gown of white, and it had its own arms were open wide in a loving gesture. At first, I didn't know who this was, because I couldn't see his face clearly. I could see his hair because it was gently blowing across his chin, because there was some kind of breeze or something. But I couldn't see his face because the radiating light from around him and coming from his heart center was so bright, and I was radiating light too. My choice of going to heaven because I wanted to go, or if it was just God. But God reached out his rainbow arms and embraced me, and he held me like I felt my back toward his chest, and his arms were around me this way. And he told me I was perfect in every way. Then he showed me many moving moments of my life and told me these moments matter, understand them. Well, some of the moments I recognized. There's about 10 or 12 videos. I'm not sure how many there were, but they were very interesting. Some I recognized and some I didn't, because some of them have not happened yet. Maybe this was an option point and they wanted me to make the choice to stay. But I was still wanting to go. And so God released me. And then he knew that I still wanted to go. And that was not a life review, but instead the film covers, looks like spiritual moments within my life that I didn't realize that I had. And so the angels came for me because I still wanted to go. And they were white and gold, yellowish gold, radiating energy forms. And they came and they touched my arms. I had morphed again. Then from the orb shape, I had morphed into a white translucent figure of a person, probably me. I couldn't see myself. But I know they touched the backs of my arms above the elbows and lifted me high into the sky. And they lifted me so high into the sky that I could see the land and the houses around the area, the other ranches, and I could see the lay of the land. And then I noticed, because we lived a quarter of a mile off the road, and we had a grove of trees that would block the dust from people driving down the gravel road. And these pin of lights were far off into the distance, and they were just tiny little pins of light coming up the gravel road and toward the house, toward our direction. But yet my attention went there. And even though I was so far away, I could feel like I was in that vehicle. I could see down the road as if I was the driver. I could see behind me as well. I could feel the bouncing of the vehicle as it drove over the gravel. I could hear the crunch of the tires going over the gravel, just like my ear was right next to the tire. And yet I was still high in the sky, and I could see my husband and myself in the bed below. I had all perspectives. And this tells me that our spirit, our share of God's spirit, can be in all places, just like God can, because it is our share of God's spirit, like I said. Now, they showed me my death and the inside of the house, and because that was an ambulance, because it had pulled down our driveway, and there's one area in the drive where the rain used to wash the gravel out coming up to the house. And so there was a rut in the road quite frequently. And this ambulance hit the rut in the road, and I could feel the rut in the road. I could hear the equipment in the ambulance kind of jostling around as it drove up to the house. And it had stopped by the back door, which I thought was odd, because that was not where the bedroom was. But it makes total sense because it was the middle of the night, and that's where the lights were that lit up the outside. So that made perfect sense. There was people in the kitchen, and there was people in my husband was in the dining room with another technician who was taking notes. And then there was another technician in our small bedroom. By that time, an ambulance had arrived as well. We lived so far away from city that emergency help is not quickly available. So I was still okay with my death because I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home and not stay. So, and then I was immediately back down. I was once again the orb shape, and I was floating right on the precipice of entering God's light. Now, God's light, it was God in his entire essence, but I'm not sure if if it was God's energy radiating out from heaven, because it was that shape, that round shape, that was the entrance to heaven. So that gives me the impression that we weren't moving toward the tunnel. It was the tunnel. I mean, we weren't whizzing that way. It was the tunnel that was gently pulling us forward into heaven. And I was just about to be in heaven. And so I decided to return to my body. And at that moment, I turned back into the blue shimmering essence that had left my body. And I was a blue essence of a person, like the color of the sky. And I sat my butt down in Jan's butt. I slipped a spirit foot into each one of her spirit feet, just like I was putting clothing on, but not all the way. I then grabbed my spirit knees and I rocked back and forth until I can get up the momentum to lay back down in her body, snap in, and help her sit up and gasp for air. All the while I re-entered my body, there was a voice from heaven echoing over and over again this message. And this message is not only for me, but it's for everyone. This voice kept repeating, love is the only thing that matters. Love is the only thing that matters. And it kept repeating it and repeating it. And it echoes in my heart every day, thousands of times a day. Everything I say, everything I do, I think about, is this the way I want to share my love? I mean, granted, I'm a human being, so there's times I slip, but for the most part, I always try and weigh everything that I say or do.